The mineral elements present in the soil are also absorbed by the roots. They are transported upward through the xylem along with water. In rooted plants, the transport of inorganic nutrients is multidirectional, and even the translocation of organic solutes occur. So the organic compounds that are mainly synthesized in the leaves by the process of photosynthesis, they need to be moved, or the glucose which is formed over there needs to be moved to different locations, and the different locations where it has to be moved can be shoots or roots or can be any other part or even the storage organs. Now this movement is bidirectional. So movement can be from the leaves to the roots or to another portions, and it all depends upon the metabolic requirement of the plant. And this process is known as the translocation. So let us see in details about how does these all processes occur, or basically how does the absorption of minerals occur in case of plants. Active absorption of minerals occur by the roots. And this active absorption occurs with the help of energy. Because whenever we talk about active absorption, it means that we are applying some energy or the movement is taking place against the gradient. So, against the gradient, if we want to move anything, we need to apply some energy for the purpose. And similar thing happens over here in case of active absorption of minerals. The concentration of minerals in the cell of the plant, or if we think about the root hairs, the concentration of minerals in the root hair is already higher as compared to the soil, but still the water molecules they are moving along with the minerals inside the plant, and it is because of active absorption. The energy is applied in order to take up the minerals from the soil with the help of water molecules, and that's why energy is required. Passive absorption of minerals, it means that when the concentration of mineral salts is higher in the outer solution than in the cell sap of the roots, the mineral salts are absorbed according to the concentration gradient by the simple process of diffusion. And in this case, you have to think it in very simple way. Think that this is plant cell and this is the soil particle outside soil particle. If the concentration of minerals is higher in the outer solution, means here the minerals will be high. Wherever the minerals are high, I am marking it as red. So high minerals. Whereas here the minerals are low. So at this stage, the movement will be very easily understood. The movement is simple from higher concentration to lower concentration of minerals. And here there is no requirement of metabolic energy. It can occur very easily, and that's why the process is known as passive absorption of minerals. This happens when the leguminous plants, if the nitrogen requirement is there in the plants and the soil is rich with leguminous plants, then this process occurs, that is passive absorption of minerals by the root hair cells. But in an area where there is very less amount of nitrogen, in that area the movement will take place. There will be absorption of nitrogen from the or ammonia from the soil, but that movement will require energy. So the movement will be there from concentration to higher concentration. So this portion where I have written high will be low, but the movement will be same from low soil concentration to the plant, but energy will be applied. ATP molecules will be required for the process. Now, this is a structure of a leaf. One fragment or one small portion of the leaf is cut, and that is seen under the microscope. You can see different areas. We will start one after another. We will focus on the cuticle at first. Cuticle is the upper thicker layer of the leaf and it has waxy coating over it. Because of the presence of waxy coating, transpiration rate is lowered, and even the solar radiation which could harm the leaf is also quite less. Second layer is the upper epidermis. This is the first layer, and this layer has is protective in nature. Similar is the condition for the lower epidermis. It is also protective in nature, but other than that, it has presence of stomata. The stomatal opening is present in case of lower epidermis, and from here, the exchange of gases occur at a very rapid speed. Mesophyll cells are mentioned. There is one thing which is missing is the palisade layer. Palisade layer is this, these cells are the palisade layer, and then after is the spongy parenchyma. These mesophyll cells are the two layers. Few layers are missing, you can just correlate with the layers. This is a layer which is known as mesophyll layer, and after that the area which is marked as mesophyll cells is the spongy parenchyma. If we follow this diagram, we can understand, forget about all the other details. If you just remember one small thing, these small spaces which are present in between the cells, these areas, these are the areas where water comes from. So water comes from the xylem, and it is one drop of water is expelled through these to this vacant space. In the vacant space, the water dries up very fast, and then after it is evaporated out, you can see low water vapor content, and that's why water moves out, because outside the water concentration is way too less as compared to the inside of the leaf. Because of humidity, the rate of transpiration will be little less, but still we will study the details of it later on. But here just one idea has to be developed, that in the vacant spaces, the water, it gets converted from liquid form to vapor form, and it can move out of the leaf. Now, because of one water molecule moving out, or the when one of the molecule of water leaves, a vacant space is created in that area, and there is a suction pressure which works, and because of which the next water droplet which is there in the xylem will come out, and again the same process will be repeated again and again. Now, what is the meaning of ascent of sap? The upward movement of water from the roots to the top of the plant is called ascent of sap. Just the upward movement of water. The plant absorbs water through the roots and transpire through the leaves. So when one molecule of water, or just one drop of water, has converted itself from liquid form to vapor form, it has got eliminated, and after the elimination has occurred, again there is a suction pressure which is working, and that suction pressure pulls one another water molecule outside, and again the same thing happens with that water molecule. It gets dried up in the vacant space, and it is again evaporated out. The water moves from the roots to the tip portion of the plant body against the force of gravity, because of the suction pressure which the plant experiences due to the low atmospheric moisture content. So this is what I is again elaborated, all of it in a combined diagram. You should start with the root hairs. From the root hair, since the pressure is very low, or the water content is very less, partial pressure is C minus 0 to 1. So water is pure in case of soil particles, but as it reaches the cell sap, it's minus 10, so it is impure. So as it is moving, it is the potential, water potential is going on decreasing once it is moving up. So as it is moving up, since the water potential is decreasing, the movement of water is quite easier, and it is the root pressure which is working at this time. You can see water is moving through the epidermis, then epiblema is the outermost layer which contains the root hair, then is the cortex which contains, after that cortex is the presence of endodermis which has presence of casperian strip. That's why the water has to follow the symplastic pathway. From the symplastic pathway, again water moves to either the symplastic or apoplastic pathway according to its convenience and requirement, and it somehow reaches the xylem tissue, xylem vessels, or the tracheids. I should be much more it will be much appropriate if I say it's tracheids. Through the tracheids it reaches the leaf, and from the leaf through the epidermis, I should not say epidermis, lower epidermis, water is evaporated out in the form of vapor. So this is the entire process by which the water is moving out, and this process is known as ascent of sap. It is taking place because of root pressure and even difference in water potential. Now, root pressure, what is the meaning of it? Water can also be moved up to the stem via a push force from the roots, and water is constantly being absorbed by the roots due to the negative water potential of the roots. That is what we saw. At first, in the soil particle, it was just -1, but as it reached the cell of the plant, it became -10. Again, -30 till it reached the leaves. So the concentration of the cell sap is increasing. So the mineral content in the cell sap is increasing. That's why water is flowing way too faster, because water has a tendency to move from higher concentration to lower concentration when it is attached by a semi-permeable membrane, and all the cells in the plant, they are attached by a semi-permeable membrane. That's why it is root pressure is working, or water potential is helping in the movement. So there is one more important thing which occurs or which helps in the process of movement of water, that is adhesion and cohesion of water molecules. Now you can see over here, adhesion means it is a property of water molecules which allows the water molecules to stick to non-water molecules. Here non-water molecules is, this non-water molecule is xylem. Let it be xylem. So water molecule getting adhered to the xylem, which results in some common water behavior. Adhesion allows for water to move against the gravity through the plant cells. So think that a tube is there and water is attaching to the tubes. All the water, they are attached to the tubes. Now not only that, these tubes are very fine. They are very narrow. And as because they are narrow, they can get attached to the way you can see over here in the diagram, water molecules are very, the way they are attached, and in between there is pore. These pores are what kind of pores? Yes, they are the plasmodesmata. So I said to think about the non-water molecules to be the xylem, the walls of tracheids. Let it be the walls of tracheids. Now what is cohesion? Cohesion is the attachment or the pull of two water molecules to each other. So let's see what exactly is cohesion. Cohesion enables the water molecules to move against the flow of gravity in plants. The attraction of water molecules to other water molecules is known as cohesion. So there are two things which are working. One is the attachment or cohesion of water molecules to one another. Second is the attachment of water molecules which are at the periphery to the xylem cells or to the tracheids. Now, because the entire fine narrow pipe is filled with water molecules, so the water molecules are at the corners, they all will be attached to the xylem, and as they are already adhered, or you can think that they are completely attached to the xylem, then the movement will be very simply the way we suck water from the straw. Similarly, the water will be sucked up by the upward pressure. The leaves are creating the pressure by removing the water molecules, and that pressure will be way too sufficient in order to pull one water molecule. And since all the water molecules are attached to one another, when one water molecule is removed out, the another water molecule will be taking up that place. So by this process, all the water molecules, they move in the xylem, but till they reach the xylem, they have to follow the entire apoplastic or the symplastic pathway, or apoplastic pathway till it reaches the casperian strip, and then after they will follow the symplastic pathway. And once it reaches or crosses the casperian strip, then again they can follow either of the routes in order to reach the xylem cells. Once they reach the xylem cells, then the trend is already there. There will always be water molecules forming this entire narrow capillary filled with water, and due to this pressure, always continuous upward flow of water is maintained in the plants. Next is the transpiration. This is also very important, because when the water molecules will be lost, then only the pressure will be created. So the first water molecule which will be released out, because outside water content is very less, again the water molecules, they will be moving from higher concentration to lower concentration. Water molecule will be very evenly distributed in the leaf vacant space, and then due to temperature and evenly distribution of the water molecule, it will get converted from liquid form to vapor form and will be removed out. Once the water is lost, then a pressure will be created. That pressure will pull another water molecule at the same place. Again, the same process will be repeated. This process is known as transpiration. So, the constant water loss via transpiration from the leaves causes a negative water pressure in the leaves, and this negative water pressure in the leaves works like suction force, pulling the water molecules from the stem. And since the water molecules, they are attached to each other by cohesion and attached to the xylem with the help of adhesion, that's why they can move. They will always be moving in the same process. So if you see this entire diagram, it is very easily understood. From the root here, by imbibition water is moving, then osmosis is occurring. After osmosis, you can the water can follow either of the two paths, either the apoplastic pathway or symplastic pathway. If apoplastic pathway, then it will be following the dead cell wall. Water will be moving through the dead cell wall, there will be no obstruction and it can move very fast. Whereas when it is following the symplastic pathway, there will be obstruction in case of um, living tissue, and there will be presence of some colloids, some cell organelles, and that will produce hindrance, but still the water can move. Once it reaches casperian strip, again the water has to follow the normal symplastic pathway, and then after the endodermis, through the pericycle, it can follow apoplastic or the symplastic pathway so that it can quickly reach up to the xylem. After xylem, again adhesion cohesion along with transpirational pull and root pressure will work for the movement of water molecules till it reaches the leaves, and through the leaves suction pressure work, and by the process of diffusion water gets converted into water vapor and it is eliminated out in the atmosphere. Now, one more thing is working. Since I was saying that it is the narrow tube, xylem vessels or tracheids, they are very narrow tubes. Now, it is somewhat similar to this entire diagram. The way we take this liquid through the straw. Similarly, this capillary action results in xylem vessels and the tracheids to pull the water molecules to it, to the leaves. Capillary action is the ability of water or any liquid to flow in narrow spaces without the assistance of or even in opposition of external forces like gravity. Stem, xylem is structurally adapted to take advantage of capillarity because they are very long with a very narrow diameter. And because of this, capillary action is well understood. Now you can think about some more examples for this. If you take a very fine tube and let the water rise in it, it will rise. Now, some simple example if I want to give, I can suggest you all to take a tissue paper and in a beaker add some coloring agent. You can just add any indigo color or any color from your watercolor and dip that tissue paper, a small portion of the tissue paper, with water. The water will eventually make the entire tissue paper wet. How is it moving? It is moving through the capillary action. Similar thing occurs in case of xylem. Xylem, the tubes are even narrower than the tissue paper cells. So that's why it can move in very quick progression in with the help of this capillary action as well. Now, eventually, if we want to summarize the entire part, water moves up the stem in response to the suction pressure created by the transpiration because of two forces. One is adhesion, which is seen in between the xylem and the water molecule, and cohesion, which occurs between two water molecules because of the hydrogen bonding between them. Cohesion is a tendency of water molecules to stick with one another, whereas adhesion is a tendency of water molecules to stick to other surfaces, and here it is the xylem vessels. Capillarity also helps in the movement, which means that narrow the tube, faster is the movement of water.